When people picture World War III, they imagine missiles striking New York, Los Angeles, or Washington, D.C. That's no accident. It's the image we've been conditioned to expect. But the real nuclear frontline isn't on the coasts. It's in the middle of the map. Colorado, Nebraska, Montana, wide open places of wheat fields, silos, and sky. These states house much of America's nuclear arsenal, making them the most likely targets in a first strike. By design, the U.S. has turned its sparsely populated heartland into a strategic buffer, a great sponge meant to absorb incoming missiles and spare major population centers. Millions live there, unaware that, in nuclear strategy, they're already on the map. Our first stop is Colorado Springs, Colorado. At a glance, it feels like a postcard. Mountains on the horizon, quiet neighborhoods, ski resorts, and hiking trails. It's the kind of place that seems far removed from global conflict, the last place you'd imagine at the center of a nuclear war. But beneath that calm surface, buried nearly 2,000 feet inside Cheyenne Mountain, lies something far more ominous. Hidden in solid granite is the NORAD Command Center, the hub of America's nuclear early warning system. From here, every missile launch on Earth is tracked, every suspicious object in orbit monitored, every second of the nuclear countdown measured. This isn't merely a bunker, it's a hardened citadel. Massive 25-ton blast doors seal off the facility, while shock-mounted buildings float on giant springs, designed to withstand earthquakes, nuclear blasts, and electromagnetic pulses. The goal is simple: ensure command and control survives long enough to respond even if the unthinkable happens. And that resilience makes it dangerously valuable. In nuclear war logic, strength invites attention. The more critical and indestructible the target is, the more warheads are assigned to guarantee its destruction. Colorado doesn't just stand by during the apocalypse. It's engineered to draw the opening barrage, pulling nuclear fire away from coastal cities while millions of residents live atop what strategists quietly label a priority magnet. Just northeast lies Omaha, Nebraska, home to U.S. Strategic Command, STRATCOM, at Offutt Air Force Base. If Cheyenne Mountain is the brain, this is the trigger finger. Beneath the quiet Midwestern skies, hardened command centers hum with constant readiness, staffed around the clock by planners, analysts, and commanders whose sole job is to think about the unthinkable. From here, streams of data converge: satellites, radar, intelligence feeds, forming a real-time picture of global threats. The setting could not be more deceptive: flat land, open roads, and endless cornfields, masking one of the most consequential decision-making hubs on Earth. Within those underground rooms, decisions are weighed that would alter human history in minutes. When, where, and how many nuclear weapons might be launched in retaliation is not a theoretical exercise here. It is a rehearsed, regulated process refined over decades. Every intercontinental ballistic missile silo, every ballistic missile submarine slipping silently through the oceans, every long-range bomber on alert ultimately traces its authority back to this command structure. The systems are designed for redundancy and survivability, yet they remain tightly coordinated, precision built atop paranoia, caution layered with speed. The calm professionalism of the people inside stands in stark contrast to the catastrophic power they control. That reality shapes the brutal logic of deterrence. In an adversary's cold calculus, crippling STRATCOM would mean blinding and paralyzing America's ability to respond in a coordinated way. That is why this stretch of Nebraska represents some of the most dangerous real estate in the country. Its 1.9 million residents are not just living in America's breadbasket, they're living beside the nerve center of global nuclear command and control. The farmland is peaceful, the towns are ordinary, but the strategic weight pressing down on this place makes it, paradoxically, one of the most heavily burdened points on the planet. Now we reach the core of the strategy, the part rarely explained plainly. America's primary nuclear deterrent is not its stealth bombers slicing through the sky or its submarines gliding unseen beneath the oceans. It is 450 Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missiles locked into underground silos across Montana, North Dakota, and Wyoming. This is known bluntly and without romance as the nuclear sponge doctrine. The idea is brutally simple. Spread the missiles out so widely and embed them so deeply that any adversary attempting a first strike would be forced to expend an enormous portion of their arsenal just to neutralize them. These missiles sit quietly, unmoving, their technology decades old yet continuously upgraded, their true power lying not only in what they can do, but in what they force an enemy to contemplate. The silos themselves are scattered across roughly 32,000 square miles of the Great Plains, an expanse so vast and empty that some sites are more than 60 miles from the nearest town. There are no warning signs, no dramatic markers, just a circular concrete lid flush with the ground, a small support building, and a chain link fence rattling in the wind. From the air, they disappear into the landscape. From the ground, they look like agricultural infrastructure or forgotten utility stations. That anonymity is intentional. Each silo is a known target, its coordinates mapped by adversaries for decades. Yet destroying it requires committing a high-yield nuclear warhead to what is, at first glance, an empty field. Multiply that requirement by hundreds, and the logic becomes clear. The attacker bleeds capability with every strike, burning irreplaceable weapons on geography rather than population or industry. Montana alone holds around 150 of these silos, clustered around Malmstrom Air Force Base, forming the largest missile field on Earth. North Dakota adds another 100 around Minot Air Force Base, while Wyoming contributes roughly 50 more, along with critical launch control centers and command infrastructure that tie the entire system together. These three states are not chosen at random, they are remote, sparsely populated, and politically stable, forming a vast geographical sacrifice zone by design. In a full-scale nuclear exchange, this region is meant to absorb the initial shock, to exhaust an enemy's arsenal, and ensure that no first strike can ever be clean or decisive. The equation is cold, mathematical, and indifferent. The people who live above these silos, farmers, ranchers, families, are not part of the targeting logic, yet they are inseparable from it, living atop a deterrent that relies on their land becoming the battlefield no one ever wants to see. But nuclear weapons do not all sit quietly in silos or behind blast doors. Some of the most dangerous elements of the arsenal are mobile, designed to disappear, relocate, and survive. That mobility is a strength, until it pauses. When it does, the abstract idea of deterrence collapses into something concrete, mappable, and terrifyingly real. In this act, America's greatest nuclear advantages briefly become liabilities, and entire states inherit the risk that comes with hosting weapons meant to never be found, never be hit, and never fail. In Bangor, Washington, Naval Base Kitsap is home to the Pacific Fleet of Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines. These vessels are the backbone of America's nuclear deterrent, carrying roughly 80% of the nation's active deployable nuclear warheads. At sea, they are nearly undetectable, silent, hidden, and lethal. But when they return to port to rotate crews, undergo maintenance, or load Trident missiles, they momentarily shed that invisibility. In those windows, the most survivable weapons on Earth sit still, their locations precise, their importance unmistakable. Deterrence here depends on timing as much as secrecy. Just miles away lies a strategic weapons facility Pacific, where warheads are stored, inspected, and maintained in hardened bunkers carved into the landscape. This is where the abstract numbers of nuclear strategy become physical objects, real devices moved by real people under layers of security. The surrounding region, from quiet coastal towns to dense urban corridors, lives beside what amounts to a floating nuclear bullseye that periodically comes ashore. Washington's 7.7 million residents are not merely sharing space with a military installation. They are living adjacent to the most concentrated cluster of deployable nuclear firepower on the planet. Halfway across the country, another kind of vulnerability emerges. In Knob Noster, Missouri, Whiteman Air Force Base houses America's entire fleet of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. These aircraft are designed to penetrate any air defense system, fly intercontinental distances, and deliver nuclear weapons with precision. In the air, they are nearly untouchable, ghosts on radar, symbols of second strike certainty. On the ground, however, they are finite, parked, fueled, and exposed. The logic is brutally simple. Destroy them before they take off, and the most flexible leg of the nuclear triad never leaves the runway. Just outside Kansas City, the National Security Campus adds another layer of strategic gravity. Here, the non-nuclear components of every modern U.S. warhead are designed, built, and tested. Without this facility, there are no replacements, no upgrades, no future arsenal, only aging weapons slowly ticking toward obsolescence. It is a factory not of explosions, but of continuity. Taken together, Bangor, Whiteman, and Kansas City, Missouri becomes something planners describe with chilling detachment as a preemptive strike zone. Its 6.1 million residents live not at the center of destruction, but at the crossroads of mobility, production, and timing, where the opening moments of a nuclear war would be decided in minutes. Finally, we reach America's nuclear birthplace, New Mexico, a state where deserts, mesas, and mountains conceal the origins and ongoing lifeblood of nuclear power. At Los Alamos National Laboratory, perched on a volcanic plateau, scientists once raced against time to unlock the atom, culminating in the world's first atomic bomb. That legacy never ended. Today, Los Alamos remains the only facility in the United States capable of producing plutonium pits, the dense, radioactive cores at the heart of modern nuclear warheads. These are not relics of the Cold War, but precision-engineered components for an arsenal that must be constantly maintained, replaced, and modernized. The isolation that once made Los Alamos ideal for secrecy still serves its purpose, masking work that is as consequential now as it was in 1945. A few hours south, Albuquerque hosts Sandia National Laboratories, the less famous but no less critical counterpart to Los Alamos. If Los Alamos builds the heart of the bomb, Sandia builds its nervous system. Here, engineers design the microchips, sensors, detonators, and arming mechanisms that determine whether a warhead stays inert or becomes catastrophically alive. These systems must survive vibration, heat, radiation, and decades of dormancy while remaining immune to accidental or unauthorized use. The irony is sharp. The most destructive weapons ever built depend on exquisitely delicate electronics. Sandia's work ensures not just lethality, but control, safety, and reliability, making it a cornerstone of deterrence rather than mere destruction. Beneath Kirtland Air Force Base, just southeast of Albuquerque, lies one of the largest underground nuclear warhead storage complexes on Earth, a vast, heavily guarded network that quietly moves, maintains, and stages components of the U.S. arsenal. This is the circulatory system of American nuclear power, where warheads are stored, serviced, and transported to bombers or onward facilities. Taken together, Los Alamos, Sandia, and Kirtland, New Mexico forms a three-part structure: brain, heart, and bloodstream. The state is not just a target, it is a redundancy problem for any adversary, a place that would need to be struck repeatedly to truly disable America's nuclear capability. Its 2.1 million residents live above ground zero multiplied, not once, but 3 times over, on land where the past, present, and future of nuclear warfare are fused into the soil itself. You might think, what about Vermont, Maine? They're safe, right? Partially true. These states have no strategic targets, low population density, and minimal infrastructure. But in a full exchange, nowhere is safe. Fallout would blanket the continent, and America's civil defense system, it doesn't exist anymore. The 1960s fallout shelter network has been abandoned, flooded, or converted into storage. The government's advice? Go to a basement. Instead, a private bunker industry has boomed. In South Dakota, the Vivos X Point converts a former army base into an underground city for $5,000. In Kansas, a repurposed missile silo sells condos 15 stories underground, with pools and theaters for $3 million each. The message is clear. Survival is a luxury commodity. Geography might reduce your chance of a direct hit, but only wealth buys real protection. The 8 shield states, Colorado, Nebraska, Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Washington, Missouri, and New Mexico, form America's unspoken bargain. Their sacrifice might save the coasts, but their residents are expendable in the calculus of deterrence. They are the geographic shock absorbers in a plan written decades ago, living on land that was never empty, just waiting to be filled with fire. This is the uncomfortable truth of modern deterrence. Safety is an illusion, geography is destiny, and the front lines are already drawn through America's heartland. If this glimpse into the unspoken logic of nuclear strategy changed how you see the map, subscribe to the Leviathan Project. Where should we explore next? The underground cities being built by billionaires? The actual chances of survival in different zones? Let us know in the comments. This is the Leviathan Project. We'll see you on the hidden front lines.